You can be the smartest person in the room, a genius, an award-winning intellectual, a professor of philosophy, or a decorated doctor, but if you can't read the room, if you can't tell how your words will land, you're lost. You could have all the right answers, but if you can't ask the right questions, you'll never get to those answers. You might even end up doubling down on a wrong answer, beating yourself into submission. You can know every Stoic quote by heart. You can debate every nuance of the Stoics versus the Epicureans. You can write entire blog posts about ancient modes of tranquility. But if you explode in anger when someone calls you out, if you find yourself triggered by a comment or you take offense at a casual word, you haven't learned a thing. The Stoics didn't just teach mental resilience. They taught emotional intelligence and social skills too. And no matter how hard you try to deny it, this is important. Life is not a solitary practice. You are wired for connection. You crave it. It's part of what makes us human. And if you can't read the room or read the people in it, you won't get very far. So, let's start here. We're going to break down the essential teachings from the Stoics on mastering emotional intelligence and social skills. If you stick with me until the end, I'll reveal my favorite book on becoming socially powerful. It's from one of the great philosophers ever. Oh, and I've got something free for you, too. Something that could help change your life. So stay tuned. Emotional intelligence isn't optional. It's not just for sensitive people or corporate trainers or social media influencers. It's for warriors of the mind. It's for those who want to lead, influence, and remain calm when others fall apart. It's for anyone who wants to make their way in this world without losing themselves. And the ancient Stoics, they were masters of this long before it had a name. Understand yourself before you understand others. Know thyself. It's the most famous maxim in Western philosophy, maybe in all of history. But the secret to wisdom is also the secret to social power. Understanding others starts with understanding yourself. This is the first step of emotional intelligence. To conquer what's within before you conquer what's without. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior, says Confucius. But Marcus Aurelius lived it. When you seek to understand others, it's easy to fall into the trap of judgment. You instantly label people and their behavior good, bad, right, wrong, smart, stupid, and everything in between. But in doing so, you lose the ability to see things from their perspective. The Stoics believed that the key to understanding others was to first understand yourself. And what does that mean? It means knowing your strengths and weaknesses, your passions and fears, your biases and blind spots. It means being aware of how your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs shape your actions. It means taking responsibility for your part in any interaction, good or bad. In short, it means becoming your own mirror. When you do this, you'll open yourself up to a world of possibilities. You become more adaptable, more empathetic, more persuasive. The Stoics called this knowing your ruling faculty, your reason, your higher mind. It's the part of you that can observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. It's the part of you that can choose how to respond to any situation. When someone offends you, insults you, disrespects you, what's your response? Do you lash out? Do you retreat? Do you react? Or do you pause? Do you observe the emotion? Do you think about it? Because this is where emotional intelligence lives. The Stoics believed that it wasn't events that disturbed us, but our interpretation of them. That's why they say we suffer more in imagination than in reality. You don't have to be a victim of your circumstances. You can choose how to see them. You can choose how to feel about them. And when you do, you become more resilient, more peaceful, more free. This is the foundation of emotional intelligence. Without it, you'll never be able to truly understand or connect with others. So before you try to fix anyone else, try to fix yourself. Before you try to help anyone else, try to help yourself. Before you try to lead anyone else, try to lead yourself. And this doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong journey. But once you start, you'll never regret it. Emotional intelligence is mastering yourself. Mastering your emotions is the key to social skills, because it gives you the ability to respond rather than react. It allows you to consider different perspectives and communicate more effectively. It helps you maintain composure in difficult situations and build stronger relationships with others. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, mastering your emotions is crucial for maintaining your well-being and achieving your goals. When you control your emotions, you become more resilient in the face of adversity and better equipped to handle challenging situations. You can remain calm under pressure and make rational decisions even in the most stressful moments. This self-mastery also enhances your ability to communicate effectively with others. By managing your emotional responses, you can express yourself more clearly, listen actively, and build stronger relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. But how do you actually achieve this mastery? Well, it starts with self. You need to understand your emotions and how they affect your thoughts and behaviors. This means paying attention to your body's cues, recognizing your emotional triggers, and developing the ability to process your feelings in a healthy way. Once you have a clear understanding of your emotions, you can start to develop strategies for managing them. This might include techniques like deep breathing exercises, mindfulness, meditation, or even journaling to help you process your thoughts and feelings. It also involves setting boundaries and seeking support when needed. Remember, asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. By taking these steps to master your emotions, you equip yourself with the tools to navigate life's challenges more effectively, communicate better with others, and ultimately lead a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Social intelligence is about listening, not speaking. There are 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This famous quote from Epictetus reminds us of the importance of listening in our interactions with others. But how many of us actually listen when we talk? Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to reply. Or worse, they listen to defend. But true listening is a superpower. It's the key to social intelligence because it gives you the ability to connect with others, to understand their perspectives, and to respond rather than react. When you listen to understand, you show respect and empathy towards the other person. You convey that you value their thoughts and feelings, and that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say. This builds trust and rapport, which are essential for healthy relationships and effective communication. Listening also helps you gather information and insights that you might not have otherwise considered. It expands your perspective and helps you see things from the other person's point of view. This is especially important in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with information and opinions. By taking the time to listen, you can cut through the noise and focus on what truly matters. To become a better listener, you need to practice several key skills. First, you need to pay attention. This means focusing on the speaker and giving them your full attention rather than being distracted by your own thoughts or external stimuli. Next, you need to ask clarifying questions. This shows that you're engaged and that you want to understand their perspective fully. It also helps the speaker clarify their own thoughts and feelings. Finally, you need to summarize and reflect on what you've heard. This shows that you're listening and that you're trying to understand their perspective. It also gives the speaker a chance to correct any misunderstandings. By practicing these skills, you can become a more effective listener and communicator. And in a world where so many people are focused on speaking, listening is a superpower that sets you apart. Emotional intelligence is not just a buzzword or a trendy topic. It's a vital skill that can help you succeed in life, whether you're dealing with difficult situations, building relationships, or simply trying to understand yourself better. Emotional intelligence is essential. So embrace the journey of self-discovery and growth. Learn to understand and manage your emotions, and watch as you become more resilient, empathetic, and connected to those around you. Now, as promised, I want to share my favorite book on becoming socially powerful. It's a classic that has stood the test of time. The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. It's a fascinating exploration of the psychology of seduction and persuasion. But the lessons in this book go far beyond just romantic pursuits. They apply to every aspect of social interactions, influencing people, building relationships, and achieving success. And remember, the first step to mastering emotional intelligence is understanding yourself. If you want to dive deeper into that, check out my video on 3 Stoic exercises to know thyself. You'll find it here. Everyone has emotional triggers, moments when your pride flares, your anger rises, your jealousy whispers. You know those moments. You probably have 1,000 of them. The Stoic doesn't pretend to be immune. He learns to spot the trigger like a watchman sees a spark before a fire. There are 2 main things you're doing when you recognize your triggers. First, you're taking control of your emotions instead of being controlled by them. Second, you're not letting external events dictate your internal state. That is what it means to master yourself. Now, you might be thinking, how is that even possible? How am I supposed to not get triggered? Well, let's start with a few examples so you can see how this works. So, someone insults your intelligence. What do? If you were to ask most people, they would tell you to respond. They would say something like, just clap back. Tell him he's an idiot. Don't let him push you around. But the problem is, if you do that, you've now engaged in his behavior. You've fallen to his level. You've played into his ego. So now there's 2 idiots insulting each other. It looks like this in the mind. You're agreeing that you are actually stupid. Otherwise, why would you be so offended? Now you're both stupid, and we all know that's not the case. You're obviously smart enough to be watching this video right now. So what do? You pause, you breathe, you think, why did he say that? Because, most likely it's not about you. It's about him. It's about his own insecurities. You then realize it's actually nothing to do with you. This was the case for me recently. I was working with a guy at a coffee shop. We were making some drinks. Things were going fine. He was doing okay. And I wasn't in a good mood. Because I had just gotten off the phone with somebody who was trying to scam me. And I said something to this guy like, make sure you get this right because I don't have time for this. And I could see the hurt look on his face. Now, was it necessary for me to say that? No. Did I really think he was gonna mess up the drink? No. I was just projecting my bad mood onto him. So what should I have done? Well, I should have recognized the trigger, which was my bad mood from the phone call. I should have regulated, meaning I should have taken some deep breaths, changed my mindset, and then I would have been able to interact with this barista in a positive way. And that is key. Most triggers are mirrors, not attacks. Learn the difference and you'll stop reacting to every poke. The second thing you can do is practice what I call strategic silence in conversation. This is another concept from the Stoics. Epictetus says, we aren't disturbed by things, but by our opinions about those things. And I think what he meant by that is we aren't disturbed by things, but by our reaction to those things. And if you learn how to not always react to things, you'll find that you're much less triggered. When you know how to practice strategic silence, it can help you de-escalate a tense situation. It can hold space for someone else to reveal themselves. Here's an example. Let's say somebody brings up politics, which is a guaranteed trigger for a lot of people these days. Instead of engaging in the conversation, you listen, you hear them out. You think to yourself, oh wow, they really believe that. Then you say nothing. You look at your phone, you change the subject, you steer it in a different direction. In that moment, you have shown more strength than if you had argued. You have more power than if you had spoken. Use silence as a tool to stop being triggered. Now, this isn't easy, especially if you're used to always having to engage in conversations, always having to share your opinion, always having to be heard. But the reality is that most people won't listen to you anyway. They have their minds made up. They have their beliefs set in stone. They don't want to listen. They just want to talk. And you'll find that the more you engage with these types of people, the more you'll feed their ego, the more they'll think that they've won. And this goes for arguments about politics, religion, personal problems. The more you engage, the more you feed the fire. So sometimes the most intelligent thing you can say is nothing. Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings, wrote Seneca. He who can stay quiet has the upper hand. Every word you don't say is a test of power, past. It shows that you're in control, you're confident. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to attack anyone. You don't need to defend yourself. And I know that can be very difficult, especially in our hyper-competitive world where everything is a competition, where you feel like you have to speak up to be heard, where you feel like you have to engage in order to contribute. Trust me, I understand that feeling. But you don't have to do those things. You have a choice. It takes discipline, sure, but you can practice strategic silence. You can remove yourself from certain conversations and you'll find that you'll be much less triggered, much happier, and much more at peace. You have no control over the actions of others, only your own. You cannot control what they say or do, but you can control how you react. You can't be triggered unless you choose to be. Now, here's the thing. There are a million ways to control your reactions. Meditation is one of them. Exercise is another. Deep breathing is a third. But I have found that those practices work best when you're calm. So, they're great when you've already been triggered and you're trying to bring yourself back down. But what I want to explore today is how to be proactive with your triggers. I want to share with you 2 methods that will help you avoid being triggered altogether. The first is simple. Learn to recognize your triggers. Make a list of them, know them, become aware of them. So what are some common triggers? Well, for me it's perfectionism. Anytime I feel like somebody's criticizing me or that they don't like me or that they don't approve of me, that'll trigger me. It's also criticism. Anytime I feel like somebody thinks that I'm doing something wrong, that'll trigger me. For you, it might be rejection, abandonment, humiliation, fear, grief. I don't know. You have to discover what yours are. You can't control your triggers until you recognize them. And once you do, you can then take steps to regulate your response. If you're finding this video helpful at all, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel out. Okay, the second method is even more important. It's one that I have recently discovered and it's called counter-conditioning. I know that sounds fancy. Basically, It's where you take the negative thought or emotion and turn it into a positive one. Let me explain. So one of my biggest triggers is criticism. Anytime someone tells me I'm doing something wrong, I immediately feel a sense of shame or embarrassment. But what I've started to do is counter-condition myself. So instead of feeling ashamed or embarrassed, anytime somebody tells me I'm doing something wrong, I say, wow, this is an opportunity to grow. This is a chance to improve. This is a gift. Now, I know that sounds kind of silly. I know it sounds fake. You're probably thinking, that's ridiculous. Who would ever say that? But what you have to realize is that your thoughts are exactly that. They're not real. They're just thoughts. You're not a horrible person just because you feel shame or embarrassment or anger or frustration. You're not a bad person. So why not reframe these thoughts in a positive light? Why not make them work for you instead of against you? When you start to do that, you'll find that you'll become less reactive, less triggered, and this is a process, but it's one worth undertaking. If you're able to do this, you'll have mastered yourself, and that is what Stoicism is all about. I was always an emotional person, and when I started training in judo, I quickly realized that my big personality was a liability on the mat. I would get so frustrated that I wasn't getting better faster, so frustrated that I was losing, so frustrated that I wasn't bigger, stronger than everyone else. All these emotions would bubble up inside of me and explode, and the bigger I got, the more reckless I became. My anger would take over my movements. I was trying to slam people harder, throw people more violently, kick people more ferociously, but in doing so, I lost technique. I got sloppy. I put myself in bad positions. I gashed, opened my eyebrow. I tore I separated my shoulder. I had a concussion. I rolled my ankle. The bigger I got, the worse I performed because my emotions were driving me and I wasn't in control of them. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, used to say, he is a slave who follows his passions. That's what I was, a slave to my anger, my jealousy, my fear. If you want to be free, he says, then don't follow your emotions. Ask yourself why you're feeling this way, where it's coming from, what story you're telling yourself, what belief is being threatened, what assumptions are being challenged. Once you see emotion as information, you stop letting it drive the car. You become the driver. Now, does this mean the Stoics are devoid of emotion? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that we've internalized our emotions. We've digested them. We understand where they're coming from, and we choose how to respond rather than react. We have access to our emotions, but they no longer control us. So that's what this lesson is about. Emotions are data. They're not directions. Don't let your emotions move you like a puppet master. Be the one pulling the strings. There are 3 parts to this. First, we'll talk about anger. Then we'll transition into jealousy. Then we'll talk about fear. These are 3 emotions that can easily lead to disastrous mistakes if you're not careful. First, anger. Anger is a signal. Something's not right. Someone has done you wrong. You feel provoked. But what do you do with that? Do you lash out? Do you snap? Do you hold it in? The Stoic mind asks, first, why am I angry? What story am I telling myself about this situation? What belief is being threatened? Once you zoom out and examine the emotion, you start to realize, okay, maybe this person didn't mean to cut me off. Maybe they're late because their child is sick. I don't actually know what's going on. Why am I jumping to this conclusion? You calm down. Now you can choose how to respond. Do you keep driving? Do you honk? Do you roll down your window and educate this poor guy who's late picking up his sick kid on the way home? You get to choose how you respond rather than react. The billionaire businessman and poker legend Doyle Brunson said, you must be able to control your emotions. If you show people you're getting excited, you lose half the battle before you even play. Same thing with anger. If you can't control your anger, you're already in trouble. The consequences will ripple out. People won't want to work with you. You'll damage your reputation. Your productivity will suffer. Your health will decline. Anger is energy. If you can't control it, it will control you. The second part is jealousy. Here's a rule one live by. Never compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You might have been born with more advantages, fewer advantages. Your journey began at a different time. You might be miles ahead. You might be miles behind. You don't really know where you stand. You don't know what sacrifices they made to get there. You don't know the obstacles they had to overcome. You don't know the problems they face that you don't yet have to deal with. You only know your own path. So focus on that. Obsessing over someone else's success will eat away at you. It will poison you. It will paralyze you. Instead, learn from other people. Draw inspiration. Understand their perspective, but don't compare. Just like you wouldn't compare your health to someone else's, You wouldn't compare your intelligence to someone else's. You wouldn't compare your looks to someone else's. You wouldn't compare your wealth to someone else's. Why would you compare your progress? When you're jealous, ask yourself, why am I threatened? What belief of mine is being challenged? You see, when I was jealous of other judica, I was saying to myself, I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not strong enough. But those are just beliefs. They're not facts. You can choose to believe something different. You can choose to see the gap not as something that condemns you, but as something that inspires you. You can choose to think, wow, I have to get to that level, not because I'm not good enough, but because I want to challenge myself. That's the difference between someone who gets stuck in a rut and someone who goes far. The first person compares. The second person learns. Finally, the third part, which is fear. There's a big misconception about fear. Most people think you should never feel afraid. You should suppress your fears. You should deny them. But what happens when you try to ignore a problem? It just grows until you have to deal with it. The Stoics understood that fear is a signal. It's telling you something is wrong, but it's up to you to figure out what that is. When you feel afraid, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What is actually happening right now? Oftentimes our fears aren't based in reality. They're based in stories we're telling ourselves about the future. You're afraid of being embarrassed, of looking foolish, of what people will think. So you try to hide your work, you hide your face, you pretend you're fine. But that just builds up more fear. Eventually you explode. The secret is to release that tension by acknowledging it. Talk to someone. Tell them what you're going through. Express your emotion. Seneca said, it's impossible to enjoy life unless you enjoy it in private. That's absolutely true. If you look around online, what do you see? Everyone flaunting, showing off, pretending they're happy all the time. But real happiness comes from within. You can't be truly joyful if you're chasing external validation. If you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, if you're terrified of what people think, you will never be at peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. So, the secret is to zoom out. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What's the root cause? What's the real problem here? Chances are it's not as bad as you think. Chances are you're assuming things will be terrible when in reality they could be much worse and you're just making them worse with your reaction. This is the art of emotional control. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding them. It's about asking yourself why you're feeling this way. When you do that, you transform from a slave into a stoic leader. And listen, emotional control is a leadership skill. People are drawn to calm. In chaos, they follow the one who isn't panicking. I remember when COVID hit, when the markets crashed, when everyone was freaking out. I was calm. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I wasn't going to panic. Whether you're in business, relationships, or a high-pressure situation, your emotional mastery becomes your greatest advantage. Let others scream. You stay centered. Let others gossip. You speak with precision, even if it's just to say I don't have anything to add. It's better to be quiet than to contribute to the noise. That's what the Stoics believed. The leader makes a decision and moves forward. The fool reacts to every little thing. So many people see the Stoics focus on controlling their emotions, their resistance to the impulses of the flesh, their ability to sit with pain and discomfort and uncertainty, and they think we must hate ourselves, that we must not enjoy anything, that we must not care about anything. But that couldn't be further from the truth. What the Stoics are trying to do is put space between us and our emotions, so we can choose how to respond to them. Because what happens when we don't? When we allow our emotions to control us, well, Epictetus says we become slaves to our passions. Our desires and fears end up running the show, and life becomes a constant push and pull, a negotiation with whatever impulse happens to come along at the time. The Stoics call this being carried by the passions, letting the current take you wherever it will. But there is another way, the way of the Stoics, the way of self-control, which is to detach from our emotions. Now, I know that sounds cold, but trust me, it's anything but. Welcome to the channel. This is the Daily Stoic, and today we're going to look at a quote from Marcus Aurelius. But first, let's look at some comments from our community. This is from Michael. He writes, I just finished reading Meditations and wanted to thank you for your work. I had avoided Ryan Holiday for years because I thought he was a sellout, but I had to admit I was wrong. Thank you for helping me grow as a person. I'm better because of your work. Well, I appreciate that, Michael. I appreciate you taking the time to write that. And I will say this, nobody's perfect. Nobody. And I certainly am not. But I'm trying my best to live up to the ideals of Stoicism every day. And I'm glad that this work has helped you. If you have any feedback or ideas for how I could do this better, please always feel free to send it. We're always looking to improve the podcast, the books, everything. So thanks again. I appreciate that. Let's keep working together. This is from Brad. The question of the day: does anyone else get annoyed by the new app layout? Or is it just me? Yes, it is you. Just kidding. It is me. I got rid of some things that I didn't like. I actually think it's an improvement. But if you don't, we can always go back. So let me know in the comments what you would like to see. But I'm really happy with where we're headed. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's an improvement. This is from a supporter. How does one deal with people who were once friends, but now make you feel less than a human being? They try to belittle and discourage you to the point that you feel worthless. But then when they have a problem, they expect you to help them. They've cut me off, and I've cut them off. But I'm still having trouble getting over this situation. Any advice? Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. These are the toxic relationships that you have to let go of, that you have to distance yourself from. You have to cut people out of your life who don't deserve to be in it. Don't waste your time explaining yourself to them. Don't waste your energy trying to convince them of anything. Don't waste a second longer letting them influence you, period. Marcus Aurelius says, "Do not tie your peace to what others think." This is the key to understanding the Stoics and happiness, understanding other people. And it's the key to understanding how to be emotionally intelligent. What does he mean by this? How can you be emotionally intelligent? First, you can't outsource your emotions to other people. Your responsibility is to tend to your own heart and mind, because your peace, your joy, your happiness, it's entirely up to you. Others may have an influence, but ultimately the responsibility is yours. Second, you shouldn't tie your peace to what others think. Don't outsource your emotions to other people. Stop walking on eggshells around others. Stop worrying about what they think, about whether you're pleasing them or not, about whether they approve of you or not, about whether they accept you or not. And this doesn't mean you should be inauthentic or fake or manipulative or disingenuous. You can be kind without being manipulated. You can care without losing yourself. You can love and still walk away when you need to. Marcus goes on, you can please someone by being agreeable. Whatever you do, you will please someone by doing what's right. And the most important thing, by being true to yourself, by being authentic, by being honest, by being loving, by being compassionate, by being kind, by being generous, by being reasonable, by being empathetic, by being strong, by being resilient. Those things will attract the right people into your life, and the wrong people will naturally drift away. It's the people who are fakers themselves, who worry about what others think because they're too scared to be vulnerable. They're too scared to be true to themselves. They're too scared to be authentic, to be real, to be honest. That's weakness. That's not Stoic. That's weakness. This is what emotional intelligence looks like. This is what the Stoics call being unassailable, being impervious to outside forces. And listen, this is something you master moment by moment. It's not something you master in a day. It's something you master moment by moment, in the pause before you speak, in the deep breath before you react, in the silence before you answer, in the mirror when you ask yourself, am I ruled by emotion or am I ruled by reason? You master it in those moments. Because if you can build that inner fortress, no insult can shake you, no chaos can rattle you, no manipulation can bend you. Let me give you another example. This is from a fan. My wife and I argue a lot about money. She wants to spend and spend and spend. I want to save and save and save. Neither of us knows what to do. She is a giver. I'm more of a taker. And it's causing strain on her family. I'm sure she feels that I'm criticizing her family. I don't, but she thinks I do. How do I get through to her? Man, you gotta do your own work, right? Like, you gotta detach from the outcome here. You gotta detach from the stress you're feeling, and you gotta detach from whatever it is that you're experiencing. In this case, it's anger or frustration. It's not about you. It's about you teaching your wife and you teaching yourself. That's it. You're simply giving your wife a chance to learn. Now listen, I'm gonna tell you, you have to be careful here because this is a touchy subject for a lot of people. Money, but you have to be willing to say, hey, I messed up. I said something that was a problem. I made some kind of mistake. I did something wrong. And you have to be willing to admit that, and you have to be willing to set a boundary, which is, listen, I'm not going to fight with you about this. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. I'm just going to leave the conversation, and I'm going to come back when we can talk about this calmly, because that's the only way you're going to get through to her. And it's also the only way you're going to get through to yourself. If you're yelling, if you're screaming, if you're blaming, you're doing it to yourself as much as you're doing it to her. You have to detach from the outcome. You have to detach from the stress. You have to detach from your emotions. and you have to teach the people in your life how to behave in a healthy way. And then if they don't, you have to be willing to separate yourself from them. That doesn't mean you divorce them. It doesn't mean you throw them out of your life. It means you hold space for them to learn and grow. But you don't have to suffer along with them. You don't have to be stressed along with them. You don't have to yell along with them. You detach from the outcome. You detach from the stress, and you detach from your emotions. That's what emotional intelligence looks like. If you want to learn more about that, check out our book, The Obstacle is the Way. Also, we've been releasing a bunch of free content lately on social media, so follow us there if you haven't already. I'll see you tomorrow.